All right, it's week 18, and we've got starts and sits. Maybe help you with some DFS if you want to play that. And we also have some 2024 questions for you on today's show. And welcome, everybody. Good morning. Happy Thursday to you. Hey, we have a free Thursday night. We can do whatever we want tonight. What are you guys going to do?
It's my 15th wedding anniversary, so I'm going to take my wife out for dinner.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
All right. Happy anniversary, 15. Heath, how many you got?
I'm pretty sure 15.
Really?
We have this thing, my wife and I, where I always remember the date and she doesn't. And she always knows how many years we've been married and I don't. But she told me the trick last year is that it's 1 year older than our son. The difficult thing is now I have to remember how old he is.
That's exactly the trick I use. 1 year older than our son. Absolutely. All right. So the 8 games we're looking at today, a couple of Saturday games, Jacksonville at Tennessee. No, that's not a Saturday game. The Pittsburgh-Baltimore game is, but Houston-Indianapolis is Saturday night. Also Jacksonville, Tennessee. Buffalo at Miami on Sunday night. Jets at Patriots. Denver at the Raiders. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Kansas City, Los Angeles. And out of the 8 games, I think we have only 3 where we're expecting backups for one or both of the teams. So we have
that 2 of them are playing each other.
Which game?
2 teams that are resting guys are playing each other.
In this slate?
Yeah, San Francisco and the Rams.
No, that's tomorrow, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant in the week.
Yeah, so you know what? Why don't we we'll do the players we love and players to avoid first, and we'll talk about who's resting. We have updates on that. We have a pretty clear picture at this point.
They did a good job.
They're very forthcoming. Appreciate that.
Yes.
First of all, weird week for you guys in terms of rankings.
It's very weird for a couple of reasons. It's I think all of us, myself, Dave, and Heath, don't play in any Week 18 leagues, so our interest level in the game is clearly not there to the same extent. But with all the players missing, like it's a joke. Like who the guys we have to rank. It's as if we would do rankings for the preseason, which we don't. I mean, like preseason games.
Right. I generally try like Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night to really go through my rankings with a fine tooth comb and like, did I miss anything here? Am I a huge outlier here? I don't feel like we're done with all of the news about who's going to play and not going to play this week. So I've kind of postponed that a little bit, wait until we get a little bit more information. But like there's some teams that are resting players that also have players who are chasing records and or landmarks. And I'm not sure those guys are necessarily going to rest.
Yeah. Sure. Like for example, I put Puka Nacua back in my rankings yesterday.
That's a good one.
After the news of who the Rams said they're definitely sitting and did not say him. He is, I believe, 3 catches and 48 yards away from 2 significant rookie records. I think once he gets those, which he'll probably get 5 targets in the first quarter, he's done. And so don't expect a big game, but he could obviously score. So I put him like 40th. But those are the worst ones because they will play. They will play with a backup. They will not do much once they get their accomplishment, and then they'll be done. I think Beckham's got some things to get some incentives, but he's one I think that I could see resting because he's obviously earned his money. Like I'm sure he wants his money, but how much will they risk him that he's been banged up? That's a tricky one for me.
Kelsey.
And then, I don't see him doing much.
They asked Andy Reid, and he wouldn't he said Mahomes wasn't playing, and he had no comment on Kelsey. I think Kelsey needs 16 yards for his 8th straight 1,000-yard season, and he already holds the record with 7 straight. But
he'll play.
The problem is he needed 4 quarters to get 16 yards last week. So
well, he's got a quarterback upgrade this week. I remember last year this time we were wondering about the Vikings and what they would do. They played their guys for about a half at Chicago. Kirk Cousins had 225 yards and a touchdown, I think in a half. Scored 15 points. It was a great matchup. So you just don't know. And then the other angle is, what about the teams that are facing these resting teams? What about the Steelers? Are they just going to destroy the Ravens? It doesn't. I don't feel like it doesn't usually work that way.
Well, that's the other thing is like you can't. It's very difficult to actually rest all 11 starters on offense.
Well, it's not the
defense.
preseason. They don't have the same rosters.
Right.
So there are going to be starters who play. But like for the Ravens, for example, I believe it was either Roquan Smith or Patrick Queen was like holding his shoulder during the game last week. Kyle Hamilton's not playing. Those type of guys, anybody that's banged up or so immensely important, not that all 11 starters aren't immensely important, but you know what the deal is. So there are going to be certain guys that have to play, and there are going to be certain guys that are definitely not even seeing the field. Like imagine what the backlash will be if Travis Kelce gets hurt going for 16 yards.
Oh yeah, they'll blame Taylor Swift.
Yeah, of course,
for sure.
But you get the point. Like,
of course, yeah. All right, so we'll get into it. Well, we might as well stay on this topic. All right, so what do we know about who is sitting this week?
So the Ravens are sitting. Almost every quarterback for a team that's clinched has said they're benching their guy. So Stafford's out, Brock Purdy's out, Joe Flacco's out, Mahomes is out, and
Lamar.
And Lamar Jackson's out. So all 5 of those quarterbacks are sitting. That we know. Then the Rams have said they're sitting Kyren Williams and Cooper Kupp. So that we know. Then you just got to sort of play the guessing game. Okay, so who's in, who's out? Christian McCaffrey we know is out. Deebo Samuel said, I believe it was on Kay Adams' show earlier this week, he said he's playing. Could that be a drive? Could that be a quarter? Could that be half? How much is he going to play without Brock Purdy there? So I'm not ranking him. I don't know about you, Heath. Brandon Ayuk has got to be in a similar situation. Same thing with George Kittle. So forget those guys. Again, Puka may play a quarter. He may play a half. He may play just until he gets his numbers. Who knows? But it's with Carson Wentz. He's probably just going to get force-fed targets. I would not start him. And then everybody else for the Rams, we know. The Ravens, are they going to risk knowing their history of running backs, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill? Probably not. Again, Beckham, Zay Flowers, what's the point in playing them? I'm going to sit them if I had them in a championship. Same with Isaiah Likely, knowing what he means to them. So those guys are probably out. Then you go to Cleveland. They lost Nick Chubb. They lost half their offensive line. Amari Cooper's already banged up. So who's playing there? Probably nobody of significance.
Pierre Strong.
Right. Elijah Moore is coming off of – I didn't want to start listing the guys who could play. But, yeah, Elijah Moore is coming off a serious concussion. He's not playing. So those guys are out. And then what other teams we have?
Well, there's one that has not confirmed that they're resting, but I would be surprised if either plays a full game, and that's the Cowboys and the Eagles.
No, the Cowboys have to win. They're playing a full game.
Well, they have to win, but they're playing the Washington Commanders. So, like second quarter, they're up by 28. How much longer are the Eagles playing their starters against the Giants?
That's very fair. But how'd they get up by 28? That's the question.
Right. For the Cowboys, sure.
Yeah. So I would think that they're playing. I'm not getting away from the Cowboys. The Eagles is tricky because they'll be scoreboard watching, right?
Yeah.
Or is their game at 1 and the Cowboys are at 4?
No, they're at the same time.
And they're both at 4. But remember, I mean, the Commanders beat the Cowboys last year in Week 18. Crazy things
and the
happen.
Eagles just lost what everybody thought was a layup game too.
Right, exactly. I mean, obviously, we expect the Cowboys to win, but you never know. The Eagles could probably use a little bit of momentum going into the playoffs. But
right, but that could be half. That could be half.
A little rest probably wouldn't hurt too. I mean, you wouldn't expect Devontae Smith. He didn't practice yesterday. I wouldn't even know if he's healthy enough to play.
Right. The way that I would approach it if I'm playing in Week 18, if any team has something to play for, I would play those guys to whatever extent.
Or a team that's been just eliminated, like the Jets-Patriots game, you would probably expect, the normal workloads from Zeke and Brees and Wilson, right?
See that, but I agree with you. But then it gets into the tricky part of this. Like Belichick said, they're playing everybody, so take him at his word if you want to. But in a situation like the Patriots, like what incentive do they have? And I would start Zeke, but what incentive do they have to play Ezekiel Elliott over Kevin Harris? Besides just getting the win. And again, that makes total sense if that's the argument, if they're just trying to get the win, which I get because Belichick's chasing the coaching wins record. But a team like that, for example, that has an older player that is clearly not part of their future, and Kevin Harris might be. Like if I'm the Patriots, I'd want to see Kevin Harris get a full workload just to see what happens if he's our backup next year.
By the way, not only is Bill Belichick chasing a wins record, if they lose, he ties the loss record. He will tie Dan Reeves and Jeff Fisher for the most losses by a head coach of all time, except he has 302 wins and Dan Reeves has 190 and Jeff Fisher has 173. But a loss to the Jets will tie Bill Belichick. What if he wins the game and retires and never loses that 165th game? All right, let's get into it now. Players we love. Jamie, you love anyone this week?
Yeah, Kyler Murray's the start of the week. Didn't love that DJ Humphries was ruled out with a knee injury, their offensive lineman, but it's a really good matchup. 3 of the last 5 quarterbacks have been over 21 fantasy points against the Seahawks, and I think he'll be in that range. He's been over 22 points, I believe it is, in 4 of his 7 starts since coming back from the ACL tear. He'll give you a little bit with his legs. He hasn't been running to a huge extent, but basically 20 to 30 yards on a weekly basis. And I just like the fact that he's playing well. I like that Jonathan Gannon committed to him. Again, it's a weird week, so he wouldn't normally be in probably the top 10 if everybody was playing, but he's a top 5 quarterback for me. I like the setup. I like the matchup. I like the fact that they could play spoiler. They played really well the last 2 weeks. He played really well the last 2 weeks in some tough situations. One, not so tough in terms of Philadelphia, in terms of matchup wise, but how he played against Chicago, I thought was impressive in how he sort of rallied after a slow start. But I like that he's taking command of the offense. I like what the things they're saying about him. And I just think that he'll have a 20-plus point game, which will put him close to the top 5 for this week.
Okay. Kyler Murray against Seattle. Heath, how about you?
Tyrod Taylor needs, I think, 37 passing yards to be the leading passer for the Giants this season. Needs 47 rushing yards to be the leading quarterback rusher for the Giants this season. He's averaged about 35 rushing yards a game and 260 passing yards a game. He's facing an Eagles defense that is just absolutely awful, and I'm not sure could stop the 3 of us. So, yeah, top 12 quarterback.
All right, Kyler Murray and Tyrod Taylor. Jamie, player to avoid this week?
I'm going to avoid Tua. I would start both the quarterbacks we just mentioned over Tua Tagovailoa. It's a tough setup, man. He doesn't have a good history against Buffalo. I think it's 1 game over 20 fantasy points in 7 career meetings against them. One of those he only played a little bit, but still, every time he's taken the field against Buffalo, it's not been great for him. And Jalen Waddle probably not going to play. I know they're talking about it optimistically, but I think we sort of laid that out how Mike McDaniel has been the last couple of years, or the last 2 years, when he said things. He's becoming a new Pete Carroll. So I don't think we'll see Jalen Waddle. Offensive line's a mess. The Bills defense has definitely played a lot better lately. Some of the quarterbacks that they've shut down, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, we've talked about that in their recent run. And so again, Tyrod Taylor better than Tua Tagovailoa is something that you should buy into this week, because he's probably going to have a better day and certainly a much easier matchup. Okay,
and Heath, who do you want to avoid?
I would just be a public service announcement. I would like to avoid playing in week 18. So if you're doing that this week, I try to change that for next year. But no, I'd like to avoid DeAndre Swift, despite the fact that he was really good against the Giants the last time they played. I think he is someone who could really suffer from if they only play their starters for a half or for 2.5 quarters, because he's already completely volume dependent and he has to get that 1 touchdown. He doesn't do anything in the passing game. And so I'd like to stay away from Swift. He's not a top 24 running back, despite the great matchup.
All right. Would you start to say both Steelers guys over him?
They've been better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Warren's got 4 to 5 catches and I think 4 straight games. And he's doing, other than last week, doing nothing with it. It's crazy. But Najee's got 2 good games in a row. He has 0 catches in 3 straight games. So there's that. But then I look at that Steelers-Ravens game. It's just like, in my mind, I feel like the Steelers should win by 7 or so. I think they're favorites now, but all right, that's one of the games we'll talk about. So we'll
who I'd start over him is Jordan Mason.
There you go.
See, that I think you can get there on Sunday, because I think Elijah Mitchell's a very tricky part of this. I would not play Elijah Mitchell. I think that's something that they might do, but for a guy that's missed 3 of his last 4 games or 4 of his last 5 or whatever it is with the knee injury, he played last week. He played great. Like, you got your Elijah Mitchell game. Like, he's good. He can handle it. Like, Kyle Shanahan, be smart, sit him, play Mason and Tyrion Davis-Price.
Yeah. Well, there was a report that that's what they're going to do from Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Jordan Mason, he thinks will get a lot of work this week. Okay. SportsPodcastAwards.com. First of all, by the way, on today's show, when we preview the games, we're going to talk about the games. We're also I have a 2024 question for each game, so we'll spin it ahead as well. But please vote for us right now at SportsPodcastAwards.com. Click vote now. Best fantasy betting and gaming podcast. That's the category. And vote for fantasy football today. We'd really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Sportspodcastawards.com. Click vote now. And we're in the best fantasy betting and gaming category. There's a link in the episode description. There's a link on YouTube. There's a QR code on YouTube. QR codes are so cool. I'm just blown away by it. I don't do a lot of QR coding, but it's very cool. All right, news and notes. Let's go. Zach Wilson is out, so Trevor Siemian will start at New England. Nick Mullins will start for the Vikings, and that could be good. I mean, that could be a lot of points at Detroit. Trevor
Could
Lawrence
be good for the Lions DST too.
Definitely. Trevor Lawrence is questionable. They're at Tennessee. Let's hope he plays. Sam Darnold starting for the Niners. Carson Wentz is starting for the Rams. Sam Howell is starting for the Commanders. Blaine Gabbert is starting for the Chiefs. Will Levis could start this week for the Titans against the Jaguars. Josh Allen and Tua, they're both beat up, but we expect them to play. Taylor Heineke was limited, so we actually don't know right now who the quarterback will be for the Falcons at the Saints. It's a big game there. The winner of that game would win the division if the Bucs lose at the Panthers. And speaking of which, Baker Mayfield missed practice. They say he's going to be fine. He's got injured ribs, but he did not practice on Wednesday. They're at Carolina. Cleveland will start Jeff Driscoll, and Baltimore will start Tyler Huntley. In 5 games last year, Huntley was just bad for fantasy. I think he scored single-digit fantasy points in 4 or 5 games. He had 2 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Maybe he can do a little bit better this year. At running back, we know Kyron Williams won't play. I just told you the Jordan Nason report that he's expected to get the work this week, according to Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Alvin Kamara missed practice. He is questionable with an ankle injury. We don't know yet about him. Jamal Williams got a pretty big workload last week. Raheem Mostert.
Do you know that after 17 touchdowns last year to lead the NFL, he has 0 touchdowns? Wow. It's amazing.
Now, I think the rookie, I'm sorry. Kendry Miller did not play last week, right?
He has not played in weeks.
I feel like he was working his way back. I don't know if he's going
to. Yeah, he may be an option. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Taysom could obviously get some work there as well. But they gave, like you said, Jamal Williams 19 carries last week after. That's part of Kamara leaving the game. He was obviously getting work with Kamara a little bit, but 19 carries was a season high.
Well, does that mean David Montgomery is not going to score any touchdowns next year?
I tweeted that yesterday about the stat, and somebody said, "Oh God, wherever David Montgomery goes next, don't play him."
I don't think he's going anywhere next year.
Yeah. Raheem Mostert missed practice, and Devon Achane now has a rib injury. Boy, it's a lot to think about for next year for Achane. The guy's got a new injury every week. Zach Moss practiced in full. Do you think he'll interfere at all with Jonathan Taylor?
To the extent that Trey Sermon did, yes.
Fair. Ken Walker missed practice, but actually is trending in the right direction to play at Arizona. Najee Harris missed practice, which has not been unusual for him. Josh Jacobs wants to play, and they won't rule him out. And Saquon Barkley says he wants to be a Giant for life, but I think there's an expectation that this could very well be the last game that Barkley plays for the Giants.
Speaking of Jonathan Taylor, I saw a stat yesterday. He's 5-0 in his career against the Texans.
Oh, wow. New Texans team, baby. I'm excited for that game. I really am.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Not a lot of games to be excited about this week, so gotta get excited about something. Keenan Allen missed practice. He is unlikely to play. Josh Palmer was limited, though. That could be a sneaky guy this week. Cortland Sutton was limited. Jamar Chase was limited. That's one I don't understand why he would play, but maybe he does. T. Higgins missed practice. Told you he re-aggravated his injury last week. Devontae Smith missed practice. Cooper Kupp's not playing. 3 Packers wide receivers were limited. Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, and Jaden Reed, they all practice. We'll talk about that game tomorrow. Let's see if they get out on the practice field today. Noah Brown missed practice. Zay Jones and Christian Kirk were both limited. Jalen Waddle, Jamie already mentioned it. He has a chance to play, according to Mike McDaniel, but he had a chance to play last week, too. Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham missed practice. Rashee Rice missed practice. Don't expect to see him out there. Tight ends, Luke Musgrave was limited, which would be annoying. I'm kind of feeling Tucker Kraft right now.
Can you trust Tucker Kraft? Forget about Musgrave if the other receivers are healthy.
Yeah.
Not if all of them are.
Right.
I don't think. But,
right.
I mean, Jaden Reed's probably going to play about 2.5 quarters anyway. He has left a bevy of games early.
Do you know, I did this yesterday. It's going to publish at some point. I did basically like the NBA. I did 3 all fantasy teams, and then I did an all rookie team. that Jaden Reed's points per game better than Zay Flowers, better than Rashee Rice, and better than Jordan Addison.
Wow.
And he's like within 10 points, total points of them for the season. Like, it's crazy. I was shocked. He's actually scored more points per game than Bijan.
Well, he scored 10 touchdowns.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah, I mean, you asked a couple weeks ago, Watson or Reed next year. I was like, Watson. But a lot to think about there. Hopefully we can get a little bit of a sample size of them playing together.
It's the new Debo Ayuk.
Maybe. Cole Kmet missed practice. Michael Mayer missed practice. Juwan Johnson missed practice with a shoulder injury. He's on the injury report a lot, and he usually plays. On defense, Jordan Davis, defensive tackle for the Eagles, he missed practice. Their run defense has been so bad, they can't afford to lose him. And the Steelers got good news with Landon Roberts and Minka Fitzpatrick limited in practice. All right, let's take a break. We'll do one question for each game when we come back. And when we talk about the games, remember, if you're not playing in Week 18, we will have a 2024 question for each game. We'll be right back on FFT.
Sunday on the NFL season finale, playoff fates will be decided. Who's in? Who's out? We can't wait for the answers. The NFL is on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, one question for each game. Jacksonville's at Tennessee. Is this a Calvin Ridley week?
I mean, should be. Every week should be a Calvin Ridley week. Look, it's a great matchup. He had a great game against them the last time these two teams played. But you got a banged up Trevor Lawrence. I don't know how much he's trustworthy at this point. So,
and that Titans defense has been a different animal at home, right?
They've been much better at home.
Team,
yeah. So again, I'll say the same thing I said about my start of the week. If this was a normal week, Calvin Ridley's closer to 30 for me. But because of who's in and who's out, like he's inside the top 20.
Yeah, wide receiver 19 for me right now.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of week that Ridley usually does well. He has been, really the whole team has been so matchup dependent this year. And last week was a terrible matchup. I mentioned it, that when he has faced teams that don't give up big plays, he's awful. And the Panthers were fifth best going into the week in big plays allowed, but the Titans are a different animal. But by the way, I mean, I can't just assume Lawrence is playing. Are you guys making that assumption right now?
We have it ranked that way, but I'd say it's probably 50-50 coin flip.
They said he's feeling better than he was last week. Last week was the first time he's ever missed a game, and it's a must-win game to get into the playoffs. I would be absolutely, like, he might not play well. He may not be 100%, but I would be absolutely shocked if he didn't.
It feels like this is win at any cost. Obviously, as he said, it's must-win game. So it could be 30 carries for ETN, and just hope that they limit Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry and what's left of the Titans offense. But it's hard to trust either scenario, I think, with Ridley, because has he played well with CJ Beathard? So
right.
He
did it in Tampa Bay.
But again, do you want to trust that?
No.
I will say, if you believe in contract incentives, DeAndre Hopkins has a ton of them in this game.
All right. Houston's at Indianapolis. Do you like Devin Singletary in a good matchup?
Yeah, I mean, he's been fairly consistent. It's again, normal week, he's probably not a top 24 running back. This week, though, he should be in that 11-point range, which is kind of where he's lived without a touchdown. And so, given the matchup, it's hard to say it's a bad scenario to buy into Devin Singletary. I mean, the Colts are number 3 in most fantasy points allowed to the position, and that's been all over the place. Without Grover Stewart, with Grover Stewart back, he's been involved in the passing game. Singletary has. So, yeah, I think he's a good number 2 running back this week.
All right. Buffalo's at Miami. Heath, starter sit James Cook.
Yeah, I think you have to start James Cook. Like, well, if we're talking about this is the week that we're going to use Tyrod Taylor and Devin Singletary because of the way things are. It's not a great matchup, but I'm starting James Cook.
All right, the Jets are at the Patriots. Who's a better flex, guys? Garrett Wilson or Ezekiel Elliott?
I would go with Zeke. I mean, Wilson, It's a small sample size, but 2 of 3 games against the Patriots, he's been bad, and they've just, in the last 5 weeks, take it for what it's worth. But shut down Keenan Allen, shut down Stephon Diggs. I think that's an MO of Bill Belichick will be to try and take away Garrett Wilson as much as he can, and hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2. So, you buy into at least what Zeke has done.
Okay. Heath agrees. We'll get into the Zeke rankings. They are once again a hot button topic here in Week 18. Denver at Las Vegas. Any concerns about Devontae Adams going up against Patrick Surtain potentially?
Not this week.
Him.
Yeah.
Is he better than Garrett Wilson and Ezekiel Elliott, Devontae Adams?
Yeah.
I'd go Zeke, Adams, Wilson.
Pittsburgh's at Baltimore. Feeling another big game for Najee and Jalen Warren?
I mean, Najee's running much better, 200 yards rushing in his last 2 games. Goal line options are certainly there for him. Like you said, they're favored now in Baltimore. They don't expect clearly a Baltimore defense to look the same. So, yeah, I would start Najee. And like you said, Jalen Warren has, they've been working well together. The formula has worked for the last 2 weeks. Like you said, 3 weeks in a row of 4+ catches, or 4 weeks in a row of 4+ catches for Jalen Warren. He's been the passing downs guy. You got to be a little concerned about the touchdowns for him because just haven't been there. But 10 PPR points for 3 straight weeks. So I think, borderline number 2 running back for him, safe number 2 running back for Najee. Yeah, I start them both.
They're low end number 2s.
Chiefs at Chargers. Is there one reliable starter in this game? Chiefs at Chargers.
I'm starting Eckler.
He's got incentives to reach, but he looked so bad last week. And I would probably lean towards start in the start-sit discussion, but he's barely inside my top 24. I would start DeAndre Swift over Austin Eckler this week.
Is Cleveland at Cincinnati? Is this Jake Browning SZN?
If there's one of Chase and Higgins, then I would consider Browning ahead of Tua. If both are out, there's no chance, obviously.
Yeah, I would start, but I'd start Taylor over Browning.
I agree.
All right. To the games. Jacksonville at Tennessee. Here's your 2024 question. Trevor Lawrence breakout? Question mark.
I'm sure he will be on breakout lists.
Not yours.
I want to see what they do with their receiving core. He will not be a top 12 quarterback. I don't think of all the rankings that I've seen from everybody. He's not in the top 12 for anyone. So it's, most likely without Calvin Ridley because of what they have to give up draft compensation wise to keep him. And then who's there? Because obviously Evan Ingram's great. Christian Kirk is solid. Is there going to be somebody better than Kirk? Because if it's a downgrade from Ridley, which, you can dice that up however you want to, it's hard to say that Trevor Lawrence can get better after what we saw this season.
I will be, I've been working on my 2024 dynasty rankings as a way to avoid week 18 this week. And came upon a question that I never, ever thought that I would be asking myself. And I talked to Dave about it. Dave thought it was a little crazy, but Jordan Love or Trevor Lawrence in dynasty?
You mean like the number 6 quarterback in fantasy this year, Jordan Love, or whatever he is?
Who is 1 year older than Trevor Lawrence?
I'd probably go Lawrence. Yeah, I'd go Lawrence.
I'd go Love.
And I was going to say the Love's year this year is better than any year Lawrence has had. It's basically better than anything except for a month that Lawrence has had.
And those receivers are only going to get better.
I tell you what, look, Lawrence needs a better offensive line for sure. And I would like a new coordinator. I would like Doug Peterson to become a head coach and not do any coordinating.
He doesn't do any coordinating right now.
I was going to say, I thought earlier in the year we needed Doug Peterson to call plays.
Yeah.
I am not really a big Doug Peterson guy. Yeah. I just think after that first year in Philly, everything went downhill. And I Dan mentioned it on one of the Beyond the Box Score episodes. They just don't have an identity on offense. I don't get them. And it took them like 10 weeks to figure out we need to throw the ball downfield. And that's when they finally started unlocking Trevor Lawrence a little bit.
But how I'm not trying to defend Doug Peterson, but how much of that has been the personnel that he's dealt with now? Because you had a left tackle situation that was in and out because Cam Robinson. Yeah. You had a new right tackle because they lost Jawan Taylor. the downfield throws to me are kind of tied to Zay Jones a little bit, and that I think is a defense and a negative, because Calvin really could certainly do those things, and it felt like they weren't using him in that capacity when Zay Jones wasn't there, and so that's I think an easy critique, but I think some of it was on the who was healthy for them, because you got to protect Trevor Lawrence to get the ball downfield more.
Like I get that, but at the same time, I mean, they just flipped the switch. They were like, okay, he just started throwing downfield more, and that is exactly when Trevor Lawrence started putting some good games together. But and the offensive line was a mess, a disaster, really bad. But at the same time, like, he had Ridley, Kirk, and Ingram for most of the year. That's enough. He should have done better, I think. And I have no idea if it's a Doug Peterson issue. I don't know. It's just a guess for me, because I watched them and I just feel like they're really underachieving offensively. And
I think most people do.
Yeah, I feel like they could use some fresh ideas or something like that.
Yes, but a lot of that is because of your perception of who Trevor Lawrence is.
But no, I mean, like, ETN's a first-round pick. Calvin Ridley's a first-round pick. Evan Ingram's a first-round pick. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, but Ridley's approaching 30 and didn't play for a year and a half. So
he's 28. I mean, 28's not old, right? Like, he could obviously the rust maybe, but how long does that an excuse? I feel like there's enough talent on that team where they should have been better offensively. I think dramatically underachieved.
I'm just glad that we were able to come up with a conversation that didn't have anything to do with Week 18.
That's the
goal. Most people, I think, thought they'd be running away with the division, and that's I think credit to Houston and Indy, but also a lack of what they've shown.
I got a sleeper in this game. I'm gonna ask you for a sleeper in each game, if that's okay.
Does DeAndre Hopkins count?
I mean, kind of. I like what you're saying there, right? Because he's coming off 2 bad games in a row. I think people would have a lot of questions about DeAndre Hopkins. You like him?
Oh yeah, must start guy this week. Borderline top 12. I would say Kirk if he plays.
Yeah.
So Hopkins actually is not coming up. I'm sorry. Hopkins had 14 points last week. He had 2 terrible games before that. So
no, but he was good last. 7 for 70 is a great game for him.
That's fine.
Best wide receiver in this game, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if Lawrence plays, would you start him or Tyrod Taylor?
Taylor.
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, if Lawrence got in a full practice, I'd probably go him, but I'm going to go Taylor.
All right. Do you like ETN this week? You love ETN this week?
Love.
Must start.
And okay, you said Hopkins over Ridley and Kirk. I mean, would you start Kirk or Puka if Kirk played?
Kirk.
Okay. Evan Ingram. So this is a tough matchup, and he's been not great in tough matchups, except for the Cleveland game. He had 32.5 PPR fantasy points. First time Ingram played, Tennessee scored 6.9 points, 4 catches for 29 yards. This team allows the fewest fantasy points to tight ends. They have allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 2 straight games, only 2 touchdowns to a tight end all season, the Tennessee Titans. So, Heath, you feeling good about Evan Ingram this week?
I don't think I wouldn't consider sitting him.
I would say this. If Kirk plays, I would probably drop him a spot in my rankings, because he's really played to this level without Kirk. And you got to throw out the Cleveland game, because once Delpit got hurt, that defense was not the same defending Titans.
So, but dropping him in your rankings, you have him 3rd. So,
right. Well, as bad as all the positions are, look who we're missing at tight end this week.
Kelsey, likely.
Kittle.
So
Yeah.
2 good
Njoku. Yeah.
three good tight ends and Kelsey.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Sit the Titans quarterback. What about Derrick Henry this week, guys?
Similar to Eckler for me. This is probably his last game in Tennessee, and so hopefully he can go out with a strong performance. And we've seen this Jaguars run defense be sort of hit or miss, but I mean, obviously he's been very hit or miss. So he's been better at home. I don't think, especially if Beathard plays, they're running away from it, with a bad game script. But you kind of know what you're getting with Derrick Henry at this point.
Well, I mean, I guess the case would be the best of Derrick Henry is always when they're in competitive games, right? Last week, they lost by 23 points against a tough run defense. Jaguars do have a tough on the tough side, run defense. But at home, he's been really good at home for the most part, except for the Houston game where he scored 5 points. Other than that, he's been over 16 points in every home game. And they're very competitive at home. So that's what kind of sets up like a good game for Henry.
And I also think you can get away with Spears too because of just how bad Jacksonville defends pass catching running backs. So, he should have a hand in this. I'm very curious what they're going to do this offseason because I would like to see if Henry leaves that Spears gets a chance to be more of a feature guy. I don't think he'll ever be what Derrick Henry has been because clearly they're built differently and run differently. But it'd be fun to see what Spears can do if he got that opportunity.
Just bring in Joe Mixon, put him in the David Montgomery role, and give Spears 15 to 20 touches a game.
That's a good call.
All right, Houston is at Indianapolis. 2024 question. Dameon Pierce bounce back, anyone?
No.
Mm-mm.
Sad, right? Sad.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's another backfield also. Like, what are they going to do? Draft a guy?
Do we have a sleeper in this game?
Why isn't the 2024 question, is Gardner Minshew a starting quarterback? It's on a one-year contract. Going to be a free agent?
Yeah, I'm not sure he helped his case all that much.
You're going to be in the playoffs? What do you mean?
I think he definitely helped his case.
Didn't do quite as well as I was hoping.
All right, let me ask you this, Adam. Daniel Jones is out until week 5 next year because of the ACL tear. You have your choice. I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be. You have your choice of Gardner Minshew, Jake Browning, Joe Flacco. Who's your 5-game starter?
Or Tommy DeVito.
Minshew.
Right.
Minshew. I'd rather have Minshew than Daniel Jones, period.
Wow, you're already done with Daniel Jones.
I think the Raiders should go get Minshew.
Already done. It took me 5 years to be done
Playoff
with
team.
Yeah, maybe. All right, sorry. Do we have a sleeper in this game? Houston at the Colts.
Schultz, I guess, if he applies.
Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
He hasn't produced very well with Taylor on the field. Like it's sort of been tied together. Like when Taylor's played, Minshew just hasn't had a big game.
He never throws the ball to Jonathan Taylor, even before the thumb injury.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just weird. He'll throw the ball to Zach Moss 5 times. Never throws to Taylor. What do you think about CJ Stroud this week? He has been also very matchup dependent. And this is not a great matchup. What's that?
Not even thinking about it. Starting him.
Yeah, he's. I mean, yes, it's not a great matchup. He beat them up in week 2. Much different team. He's obviously much better at home than he is on the road. But this is a must-win game. I think he's the type of guy I think that will rise to the occasion and play well.
There's a difference here. Right? I mean, Heath has Stroud 4th. Jamie has him 8th. So that would mean Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Jared Goff. These are guys that Jamie has ahead of Stroud.
I think they all have a higher ceiling than Stroud.
Devin Singletary or Derrick Henry this week?
Singletary. He's been better.
I've got those guys so close. I think I have Henry 1 spot higher, but they're both low end number 2 running backs.
Start Nico Collins. I guess is Robert Woods a sleeper? Any interest there?
I'm not projecting him. Yeah,
he's banged up.
All right. Well, I know Brown's banged up too, so maybe Dalton Schultz. Okay, come on,
John Mechie. He's okay, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, they just don't use him very much.
No.
I mean that's kind of we really have one reliable receiver here. It seems for CJ Stroud. So against a team that's like Schultz, he's just faded. You know, he's got 6 or fewer targets in 5 of his last 7 healthy games. He had a big game a couple weeks ago against Cleveland, 8 for 61. I guess he hasn't completely faded, but
well, it's also it's great. You know, and I think this is we get this with several teams where the quarterback will make something happen with somebody else. Like Brevin Jordan had a touchdown last week, you know, so he'll not anybody we want to start, but Stroud will make do with the weapons that he has at his disposal. The only ones that you would feel comfortable with are Nico and Schultz, at least for me.
All right. Minshew is not a top 12 guy this week from what I saw.
No, he's like 15.
All right. Would you start Mason Rudolph at Baltimore or Gardner Minshew?
Minshew for me.
I would start Minshew, but it would not surprise me if Rudolph is better.
And then for Jonathan Taylor, any concerns at all going up against arguably the best run defense in football?
Slightly. Like if Jacobs is out, I'd play Zamir White over Taylor, especially in PPR. But it's I don't think you're sitting him. Like kind of like what he said about James Cook. I feel more comfortable with Taylor.
I like Taylor better than Cook.
Okay. Michael Pittman, start him, and that's it for this game, I believe.
Yeah.
Dave likes the Texans DST. Jamie and Heath, last I checked, not.
They're top 12 for me, but not a slam dunk.
All right. Next game is Jackson. Nope. Next game is which one is it here? It's Buffalo at Miami. There we go. 2024 question. Should Josh Allen be QB1 or QB2 next year if Stephon Diggs is not on the team?
He's QB1.
Who is replacing Stephon Diggs?
Right.
Probably not someone as good as Stephon Diggs.
Could definitely be somebody better than Stephon Diggs the last 2 months.
Yeah, and I think Allen's been very good lately, but he hasn't been like tearing it up. His fantasy points in his last 4 games, 22.5. This is in 6-point leagues. 22.5, 18.2, 27, and 21.2. That's not great. Certainly not QB1 overall. He has 6 rushing touchdowns in those 4 games.
Yeah, he's actually, I was surprised. He's tied with Jalen Hurts for most rushing touchdowns, which, you think of the tush push and how much Jalen Hurts falls in the end zone. Like Allen
has 15?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. And Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback in football history to have 3 straight seasons with double-digit rushing touchdowns. I think he might be the only quarterback to do it twice in a row.
Wonder if that streak gets broken next year.
If they change the rules, yeah.
I think they're going to change the rules.
I think in terms of like the question would be is if Diggs leaves, is it draft and replace? Because I think we've seen how that's gone for Mahomes.
Right.
Or is it sign and replace? Because that's what sort of unlocked Josh Allen or trade and replace is Stephon Diggs coming there. He was a good fantasy quarterback the year before Diggs got there. He became a megastar. Sorry, they're mowing the lawn here. Don't you know I'm working?
Come on now.
But even with Diggs, like he said, the last 2 months, he's been getting by with moderate production from his number 1 receiver. So Kincaid will be a bigger part of this. They may lose Gabe Davis too. He's a free agent.
Jamie, did anybody have a different QB1 besides Josh Allen for next year?
I haven't looked that closely, but I think Josh Allen was one from all the emails that I saw briefly.
And then who?
It's between Allen and Hurts. Those are going to be
if Diggs is gone, I would take Hurts over him.
What would hurt their fantasy value more? Diggs is gone. Tush push is banned.
Oh, Diggs gone. They can.
I think definitely Hurts. Not even close.
The thing about the tush push,
3 years in a row rushing.
The thing about the tush push, all you're eliminating is the push behind him. It's still the offensive line and him diving into it. So
is Jason Kelly there?
Well, that could be a big deal too. But I think we learn. Yeah, doesn't Mahomes this year teach you a lesson about potentially Allen next year if Stephon Diggs isn't there?
What do you mean?
I mean, he's got terrible receivers, and they've crushed his fantasy value. I mean, you could say something last year. Sorry, you could say the same thing last year about Mahomes was losing Tyreek Hill, and he still was tremendous. So I get that. That's why it's not like Allen would be downgraded big time. But there's a possibility that he just has bad receivers and can't be QB1. Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
No, I think if Diggs gone, Davis gone, no significant replacements. Like if it's just we're restarting the clock on a receiving corps. He's like right there.
Jamie's on a helicopter pad.
It's a golf course. He's going to be going back and forth for a while. It's tough to say you could draft Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. But how far does he fall? Because the difference between him and Mahomes is his legs will save him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think he falls to 2. But I'm not saying major downgrade or anything, but they're pretty close, Allen and Hurts. So
they were a point apart, points per game,
mm-hmm.
and very close in total points. Like, so I did, like I said, first team, second team, third team. How would you do the quarterbacks? I'm just curious to see what you guys would do, because you take in everything, not just their points. Like, who are the top 3 quarterbacks in fantasy for this year in your mind?
What's your question? Sorry.
Allen Hurts, Dak.
Allen Hurts, Dak. Okay, that's exactly how I did it. How do you leave off Lamar Jackson? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You have Dak third in your rankings next year?
First team, second team, third team, 2023.
Sorry. Okay. All right, let's talk about this game here. Buffalo at Miami. Any sleepers in this game? Maybe like Cedric Wilson, Durham
Gabe
Smythe.
Davis.
Gabe Davis?
I love Gabe Davis this week. I actually do love Gabe Davis this week.
Eli Apple versus Gabe Davis, baby. Okay. I get it. Is he a top 24 guy for you?
No. He's top 20 for me. I start him over Ridley.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
Wow. I love how you owe me 2 lunches?
I owe you 2 lunches.
All right, let's go. Ridley if Lawrence plays, Ridley versus Gabe Davis for lunch number 3.
Yes.
Full PPR. All right, it's on. Start Josh Allen. James Cook is like a mid-range.
Wait, what you said? If Trevor Lawrence plays?
Yeah, if Lawrence plays, Ridley versus Gabe Davis. Cool with that? Okay. If you're okay with that, just cut the grass right now. Mow the lawn. All right. James Cook is good, not great. He's got 1 catch in his last 2 games. Dolphins are a pretty good run defense. Starter sit Stephon Diggs, Heath.
I'm probably still starting. Yeah, I'm likely still starting Stephon Diggs.
JB, Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs?
Diggs. I think they both play well. I mean, Josh Allen's history against the Dolphins is amazing. You have no Bradley Chubb. Most likely no Xavier Howard. I think he's already been ruled out. Ramsey's banged up. Are they going to move Ramsey around to shadow Diggs? If not, you're on. It's Kehoe, I think is his name. Their corner who will kick inside when they need a slot corner, which means Eli Apple's going to be on the outside against one of these guys. That's where they're going to go all day. So they both have the chance for a big game.
11 games in his career against the Dolphins. Josh Allen is averaging more than 35 points per game in 6-point per passing touchdown leads. It's insane. Dalton Kincaid had a good game last week. Anybody want to start him this week?
Is Dawson Knox out?
So that's the thing. He took off when Knox got the head injury, and then here we go again. Like, he's just been so bad since Knox has come back. So as Heath said, we're missing a lot of tight ends this week. So if I have Kincaid and I don't have, I'm trying to think of. I had one league where I had Kincaid and Schultz. That doesn't matter. But if I had like Kincaid and Likely, and I've been playing Likely, okay, I'll pivot to Kincaid. Like I would start Jawan Johnson over Kincaid, for example. He's just been better.
Would you start Schultz over Kincaid?
Yeah. Not right now, no. But it's close. I probably should do that.
All right. You guys obviously want to sit Tua. Devon Achane. Like, give me your thoughts on the Dolphins running backs.
If Mostert plays, you start him. If Mostert doesn't play and Achane plays, you start him. If Mostert and Achane are out, you start Jeff Wilson.
If they're both playing Mostert and Achane, who are you going to rank higher?
Mostert.
Jamie, Mostert or Achane if they both
play?
No,
same. I think, part of the process for the Dolphins last week was Mostert not 100%. We need him for next week. Let's make sure he's 100% for next week. So I hope that he's able to go for anybody that's starting him, and he'll end up, if he scores, with the touchdown record, because they're tied right now, him and McCaffrey, because McCaffrey didn't score last week. So he needs one more touchdown to be the touchdown leader. Clearly, that's secondary to anything the Dolphins are trying to accomplish. Do you know the point difference per game between Achane and Bijan?
Oh, no.
Achane's 4 points better?
4 points better. 17.7 to like 13.5.
And you know what? I can't even do the headache game because Achane had one game where he played like one snap and left. So they both have to be Azer statted for sure.
Yeah, it's I gave Achane the nod on the all rookie team over Bijan.
Good for you. I think when you look at Bijan is somewhere around 18th per game or something like that. I mean, he is
19th per game.
Yeah, he's big. He's one of the biggest busts for sure.
He is on the all-bust team, yes.
Start Tyreek Hill. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, Durham Smythe, he's been 3 straight games with 7.2 or more PPR fantasy points. Good luck starting Durham Smythe. I will take a break here. We got 5 games left, but a lot of them are kind of easy. Guys are sitting games. So we'll get to the Jets and the Patriots when we come back on Fantasy Football Today.
On the next NFL Monday QB, with multiple win and in games on the line, our crew recaps who's in and who's out of Super Wildcard Weekend. Go under center on the only NFL show all about quarterbacks. Tomorrow on CBS Sports Network.
2024 question, pardon me, for the Jets and the Patriots. Will the Jets have 2 players? The Jets. Will they have 2 players drafted in the top 20 in 2024?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe the first round.
All right. Good stuff. Who's a sleeper in this game?
Hunter Henry if he plays.
Okay. I have a stat of the game. I don't have a lot of stat of the games this week, but no running back has rushed for 50 yards in 6 straight games against the Patriots. That's Barkley, Eckler, Najee, Clyde, Javonte, and James Cook. None of them got to 50 yards against the Patriots.
So you're saying ranking Brees Hall number 1 is a mistake?
I was going to say, I think you guys have Brees Hall number 1. Okay.
He's been amazing. He's been amazing last 2 weeks.
He sure has.
Yeah, these 2 running backs have the lowest ratio of rushing yards to fantasy points.
Maybe.
Especially PPR.
I mean, here's another stat of the game. Zeke has had 5 games now without Ramondre, or with Ramondre leaving with an injury. He has not averaged more than 3.1 yards per carry in any of those games. I don't think he has a 10-yard run, or maybe that's his longest run in those games.
He had a long run at the end of the Pittsburgh game.
Did it get called back?
No, it might be 10 yards, but it was a first down run.
It was 12 yards. Yeah, that's in his last 5 games. His longest run is 12 yards. His longest run all season is 17 yards.
And he's also RB7 over that stretch.
That's amazing. Right. So, yeah, let's have our little Zeke dispute here. Let me see the rankings that I saw. All right.
I think he's 10 for me.
All right. He's 22 for Jamie, and he's 10 for Heath. 16th for Dave. I'll take Dave's side. Just play it safe.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Heath. Top 10 running back, Zeke.
Yeah, the Jets funnel targets to tight ends and running backs generally. So I'm not as worried about the lack of targets last week. And we just talked about it. Like, he's been bad as a rusher and still good as a fantasy asset since Stevenson went down.
I could probably move him up a couple spots. I'm just concerned that, again, do they give the younger player a little bit more of an opportunity? And if he doesn't catch a touchdown, his stat line is miserable.
Yeah. Okay, and that's it. I mean, Garrett Wilson. Yeah. Hopkins, Ridley over Wilson.
All those guys. Gabe Davis over Wilson for me.
Yeah, he's a mid-range number 3 wide receiver.
What a shame. Okay.
Don't worry about him. Next year's going to be stud. Absolute stud.
Unless they trade for Devontae.
What else? Any interest in Demario Douglas?
No. Tough matchup.
No.
Okay. All right. And which DST do you like better, Jets or Patriots?
Jets.
Sure.
They're both top 5 for me, though.
Denver's at Las Vegas. 2024 question. Will Javonte Williams be a top 24 running back on draft day?
No.
Probably not. But probably not.
Okay. Any sleepers in this game?
Julian McLaughlin.
Just so hard to bank on which of these guys are going to get more work. Still, Javonte's getting too much work.
How about Jacoby Myers, maybe?
There's still a chance Sutton plays.
Yeah, would he even be a sleeper, or would he be a must start?
He'd be a must start guy.
This is a revenge game for Jarrett Stidham.
It is.
about that. Or maybe it's a thank you game for giving me that showcase so I could get a contract.
It's true.
Yeah. We don't talk about thank you games very much on this show. Are you starting any Broncos, I guess? So you think Sutton would be a must start? I mean, look, Sutton with Wilson, we know can be productive. We have no idea if Sutton could be productive with Stidham.
Not a must start at all.
He would be a top 24 receiver for me, just given the matchup and the way that he played in this offense. Yes, Russell Wilson, I'm sure, is better for him than Jarrett Stidham, but I mean, again, look at the players that were let down this week and what Sutton's accomplished.
Who do you like better, Josh Jacobs if he plays, or Zamir White if Josh Jacobs does not play?
Zamir, because I think they'll play Zamir with Jacobs.
Right.
Zamir's been fantastic. I mean, he hasn't run well, but just what he's done for fantasy managers has been very good.
I was looking at him on my dynasty team, and I guess I was never really considering dropping him, but I was just like, I could probably drop him. He's never going to be anything. That was how I felt a month ago. And good for him. A nice showcase.
Like in our deep YOLO league, 2 times this season, I picked him up off the waiver wire. It's a 14-team league.
Oh, wow.
Like he was dropped multiple times, and I picked him up twice.
Okay. And so where would you rank Jacob? Everyone should be starting Zamir White, basically. Look, also, it is a championship week for some people. So you may not be starting Zamir White. I understand you might have Breece Hall, and you're not going to have Kyron Williams, but maybe like Rashad White.
Ezekiel Elliott.
But where would you rank Jacobs if he plays?
20?
Jacobs would probably be like 15 or 16. Because I think, it's with like guys like him and Barkley that are maybe leaving their teams. Like, is this their showcase game, for what another team might be looking at? I don't think so, because they've certainly put together enough of a resume that, teams know what they're capable of, but you never know.
Would you start Jacobs or James Cook?
Cook.
I'd probably start Cook.
Start Devontae Adams. Starter sit Jacoby Myers.
Number 3 receiver.
Raiders DST is top 8. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. 2024 question. Who gets drafted first? Mark Andrews or Zay Flowers?
Andrews.
Probably Andrews, but it will be close.
Do we have a sleeper in this game? Now we start to get into some more interesting sleepers here. We talk about these last 3 games with teams sitting a lot of players. Any sleepers in Pittsburgh at Baltimore?
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, like the Ravens receivers. Nelson Aguilar, maybe, if you're desperate. Charlie Kohler, if you need a tight end. So.
Does Mason Rudolph count?
Yeah, absolutely. He's played well. That's a fascinating decision what they have to do with this offseason, because what Kenny Pickett said. Did you hear this earlier in the week?
I think so.
He said, if I was healthy, I was the starter. He said that.
Right.
And like, how could you start him at this point? Like, even if they make the playoffs, like, how could you start him?
No, I mean, now he is healthy and he's not the starter. So I think Rudolph proved it. I think I think what we kind of see with DeVito and Dobbs, even like these quarterbacks, if we think they're not good at this stage in their career, they're probably not good. Well, I shouldn't say at this stage of their career. I mean, DeVito's a rookie, but they come back down to earth, most of them.
Yep.
So I really don't think the Steelers should make Mason Rudolph a big part of their plans. They've already tried that, but I don't know that they should make Kenny Pickett a big part of their plans either.
No, they definitely need a quarterback. But if this is the 2 that they go with, I mean, how do you not give Rudolph at least a chance to win the job?
Sure.
That would be a fun episode, season of Hard Knocks if they miss the playoffs and we get a Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph QB battle.
If that's what Hard Knocks is, I won't be watching.
They'll just go back to the Dolphins. They'll figure out a way. Stat of the game for Pittsburgh, Baltimore. The Ravens have allowed 100 rushing yards to a running back in 3 of their last 4 games. Kyron Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and Devon Achane. I think they are allowing, 4.5 yards per carry to running backs. That is crazy. So, and you would not expect all of their best players to play on defense.
No, I like Najee a lot.
Okay.
But I think I've liked them the last 3 weeks, though. So I like them against the Bengals without Reader. I like them against the Seahawks. They're 2 great matchups. This is another one.
So what about Pickens this week?
Start him.
Must start. I mean, how do you go away from what he's done the last 2 weeks? like you could say, okay, the Bengals game was an outlier because he only had 6 targets and 4 catches, and they were all just big plays. But then he comes back with this, 7 catch game and over 100 yards again.
It is amazing what the last 2 weeks have done. Like when we just look back at this season for George Pickens in 2 or 3 years, and don't remember like necessarily how it happened. Like, man, George Pickens was really good in 2023. He got 1,140 yards already.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't seem fair.
Well, he also had a big game against the Ravens when they were playing everybody in week 5.
Obviously, he's always one play away, right? But I do wonder about the whole press coverage thing. Remember, he's a press coverage destroyer. I have no idea how much the Ravens play press coverage, but that's
Marlon Humphrey's not playing. Kyle Hamilton's not there, so you're already taking away 2 members of their secondary. Pass rush is not going to be the same. So this should be a big game for him.
How about Deontay?
Borderline number 2 receiver, but better off using as a number 3.
Yeah, number 3 for me.
Freiermuth?
No.
Who's your favorite Raven?
Melvin Gordon.
Yep.
Yeah. Ed Reed for me. Okay. Would you start Melvin Gordon? Forget it.
Who is the better Hurricane at their position in the NFL? Ray Lewis or Ed Reed?
Oh, it's a phenomenal question. I would probably say Ray Lewis. Ooh, probably Ed Reed. Yeah, I'd say Ed Reed. It's a great question. The other fun question is who was better, Ed Reed or Sean Taylor? It was a college question. Most people would say Sean Taylor. Kansas City at the Chargers. 2024 question. Can Justin Herbert be elite in 2024?
I'm very worried about Justin Herbert in 2024. But let's see who the coach is, what the system is, what they do at wide receiver. Keenan Allen's going to be 32 or 33 years old. We don't know.
32.
Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston's nothing. Austin Eckler's probably gone. I'm worried.
Got to get the right coach in there.
Any sleepers in this game? Chiefs at Chargers.
Yeah. Clyde, if he plays.
Justin Ross.
Would it not be a different running back? Do you think Clyde is sort of in the Elijah Mitchell category?
It definitely could be another running back. I wonder. So we're now 2 games that McKinnon has missed, right?
Yeah.
He's been on IR for 2 weeks, right? So this will be the 3rd week. So he can't come back until the 2nd week of the playoffs. So if they get there, I would say it could be P. Ryan or Keontae Ingram, but I don't put Clyde in the same category as Elijah Mitchell because Clyde missed a game for illness. Mitchell was banged up.
No, I mean, in that maybe he's just too valuable at this point.
You're 100% right, but the reason I think Mitchell does not play is because he was dealing with a knee injury for a month.
Yeah. Do you think? Okay, if the Bills lose, if the Dolphins beat the Bills, and the Bills still end up making the playoffs, would they be the 7 seed?
TBD.
They would be. Will they be behind? No, they'd be ahead of. What happened? The Colts and Texans have to tie, right, for that to happen?
Let me see.
No, because they have the same conference record as the Texans. So if the Texans won, I think they would be the 7 seed. Yes.
If the Texans or the Colts won, all right, yeah, they'd be 10-7. Jacksonville would also be 10 and not. Jacksonville could be 9-8 in that scenario.
I think Jacksonville has to lose for Buffalo again, right?
Buffalo's in with a. You're saying if Buffalo loses?
That's what you said.
So Buffalo's in with a win. They win the division if they win.
Correct.
If they lose
they
to the
2 seed to potentially out of the playoffs. It's nuts.
And I think if they win, then the Dolphins will play at Kansas City.
That's what I was saying. So I think the Dolphins, if they win, they play the Bills again, potentially. If they lose, they're at Kansas City. And I wonder if they'd rather be at Kansas City or home against the Bills, who in theory they would have just beaten.
There's home for sure.
The Bills are playing a lot better than the Chiefs.
But if they just beat the Bills, they feel much better playing them at home. Come on.
It could be like 20 degrees in Kansas City in early January.
But on a neutral site right now, would you rather play the Bills or the Chiefs?
Oh,
the Chiefs. But You don't want to go into Arrowhead. That's crazy.
Yeah. The Arrowhead versus Miami conversation might be 10 points for the Dolphins.
Oh no, they couldn't. They wouldn't play. The Dolphins would be. The Dolphins are either playing at home or they're playing at Kansas City. They're either the 2 seed or the 6 seed.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. The Bills, I can't quite figure out because there's Pittsburgh, Houston, Indianapolis.
I think if the Bills lose, they're almost virtually out.
No,
so many things have to happen for them to get in still.
But they will certainly know. Obviously, well,
not if the Steelers lose.
If the Steelers lose, they're in, no matter what.
The Bills.
So yeah, the Bills.
Right.
Not the Steelers. Right.
I believe that's accurate.
I think for the Bills to miss the playoffs, they'd have to lose. Jacksonville would have to win. Pittsburgh would have to win, and the Colts-Texans game cannot finish in a tie. So
the Colts-Texans game and finish in a tie. Those teams are both behind, right? They'd be 9-7-1 versus 10-7. So the tie would not hurt them.
The tie would not hurt.
9-7 is worse than 10-7.
No, I get that, but there's the Pittsburgh scenario. Like,
doesn't matter. Both those teams would be behind Buffalo. If Pittsburgh moved ahead of them, they'd still be the 7th seed.
Buffalo, but what? Then why did I think there's the Houston Texans tie thing? Hold on a second.
Hold on, I'll get it right now.
One second.
If the Colts and Texans tie and Jacksonville loses, then Jacksonville's out of the playoffs.
Okay, for the Bills, this is from CBS.
Buffalo clinches the AFC East with a win. Buffalo clinches the playoff berth with a tie, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, a Jacksonville loss or tie, or a Houston-Indianapolis tie. That's the only way they get it.
So they clinch with a Houston-Indianapolis tie. That makes more sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. Because if they don't tie, that's what I'm saying. If they don't tie one of those teams, yes. For the Bills to miss the playoffs, they would have to lose. The Steelers would have to win. The Jaguars would have to win. And the Texans and Colts cannot end in a tie. Okay. There we go. Back to this game. Chiefs at Chargers. Eckler or a Steelers running back?
Steelers running backs for me.
I've got Eckler.
How about Josh Palmer as a sleeper?
He would be a sleeper if he plays, yes.
Yeah, he was limited.
And Everett, you can still put in the sleeper category too.
And then do you want to start any Chiefs?
No.
Clyde if he plays.
How about a DST? You want to start Chargers DST?
Not really.
No,
they're
terrible.
Bad.
Cleveland at Cincinnati, 2024 question. Who has the most dynasty value? Nick Chubb, Chase Brown, or Joe Mixon?
Chase Brown.
By
a lot.
Okay. Who's a sleeper in this game? Browns at Bengals.
Pierre Strong.
I love Joe Mixon in this game. Should I not love Joe Mixon? I love him.
I don't think it's a bad idea to love Joe Mixon, but does he get the majority of touches, or do they give Chase Brown more work?
I mean, it's a good question. This is the first week they've been eliminated from the playoffs. If he gets the majority of the touches, I think he'll have a very good game.
I don't think anybody's sitting Joe Mixon. If he's on your team, you're starting him.
In theory, you never know. It's because we have probably champions, championship game here. But I mean, I feel like you guys don't have Mixon ranked that high, as you didn't yesterday.
I'm just concerned. Anytime you get these situations where there's a guy that's got his, most likely foot out the door, whether team's pushing him that way or he's doing it himself. And there's a guy that clearly has the ability to maybe be their featured guy sitting behind him. Like, do they give him more work?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think Zach Taylor has certainly proven that he likes Joe Mixon enough that if they know they're moving on, they may give him a showcase game, a thank you game.
Okay, so Mixon, Jamar Chase or George Pickens. If Chase plays, would you start Chase or Pickens?
Chase.
All right.
Yeah.
How about Jake Browning or Tua? I think I may have asked you that earlier.
I said that earlier. If one
Chase.
of Chase or Higgins plays, I would start Browning. If both sit, then I go to it.
Okay. Someone's asking Browning or Taylor.
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 Any Browns to start?
Again, Pierre Strong is a flex.
All right.
I think like Cedric Tillman and David Bell will be the guys they're looking at. So with Jeff Driscoll, no.
Cool. We are done here. Until tomorrow, we have 8 more games to talk about and some fun 2024 discussions. I enjoy it. Heath, you're more than welcome to join the show tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd really like to, but I've got to be working on my Week 18 rankings and projections.
I can give you the all first, second, and third team tomorrow too.
Yeah. We need save something for the offseason, but actually, we are never short of content in the offseason. It's amazing. I mean, we could take a show like yesterday. We had, I think, 5 rankings disputes and had a good time with it. So, looks like we're gonna be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday at maybe 10 a.m. Eastern for those of you who want to watch live going forward in the playoff fantasy play or the NFL playoffs and beyond. So that's what we'll start our 3 episodes per week. But we'll talk to you tomorrow. And I think I haven't told Heath this yet, so don't tell him. I think we're gonna do a Sunday morning FFT in 5. Like any normal week. So
this week?
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I don't think it has to be at 8:30, but I think we should. Some people are playing. We owe it to them.
So you're doing the YouTube stream?
No. Just the 5-minute thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm on it too, it's not just you.
Yeah, sounds great. Can't wait.
Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your Thursday night of freedom. We'll talk to you later.